At the end of season 3, it was decided Gabrielle would die. Her evil daughter Hope was in a life-and-death struggle with Xena. Gabrielle leaped to the rescue and plunged into a lava pit with her arms around her daughter to save Xena's life. A Family Affair was the episode in the beginning of season 4 where Xena and Gabrielle would be reunited. Joining me to talk about the episode are Liz Friedman and Chris Mannheim, the writers, and Renee O'Connor. Why did you decide to tell this story wrapped up in a horror movie?
Well, that I think came from two sort of central images. One was that initially I just had this thought of Xena walking in and seeing Gabrielle after she'd been missing all this time, surrounded by her family, and realizing it wasn't Gabrielle, it was Hope. And that she's sitting there with Gabrielle's family, who are going to fight tooth and nail to protect basically the homicidal maniac that's sitting in the middle of them.
And her family were a horror story right there.
That's right. That's right.
That was a great father.
Yeah, who deserved to die anyway.
Yeah.
And then paired up with the fact that then when we put Hope and Ares together at the end of the previous season and came up with this notion of the Destroyer, and that of course Hope's child would sort of take all the monstrousness that was inside Hope, but in this sweet package, and make it all external, and have a really big, prickly, kick-ass monster.
And that screamed horror tale.
That's right.
Well, that, and you know what I think too? We did musicals,
Yes.
we did turgid drama, we did Greek tragedy. We'd
Yeah.
never done a horror.
Yeah.
This was a perfect opportunity.
And the irony was that, I got my, the reason I wanted to come and work with Sam and Rob in the first place was because they made horror films. I wrote my college thesis on horror films. I've always been obsessed with them. So then a chance to, make a little one was just fantastic.
There seemed to be a couple of storylines going on here. Xena was hunting for Gabrielle, and at the end of the episode, Gabrielle seemed a bit lost. What was the story that you were telling?
In a Part 1.
No, I think Gabrielle was lost at the end of the episode. Well, come on, she just killed her daughter, her grandchild, monster that he was.
But she was kind of lost in the beginning, too, don't you think, when we first see her? She's sort of thrown, for a loop.
Right.
Having come out of the
lava pit.
Yeah. Yeah. She's basically died and been reborn, and I think sort of then figured out, wait a minute, what am I doing besides following Xena?
Yeah,
Right.
What is my life about?
So I think in a way it ended up being a very realistic way to kind of start her on that journey. Because if you get a second chance at life, you start to think, okay, what do I need to
What's
change?
significant about my life besides, right.
Right, and that second chance starting off with all that killing. It's
Right.
whoa,
Yeah.
I came back for this.
And she should have realized that because she was on a very successful syndicated series, what more do you need with your life?
Yes, it's meaningful unto itself.
Well, I have a question about the horror thing.
Yeah.
Well, because there's so many gags that are really scary. You've got the pounding in the house and everyone looking around.
Right.
Did you know how to put them in? Did you know where they belonged in the script, or when you needed something scary to happen?
Right.
Yeah, you have to say that, yeah.
I think
Yeah.
so, and also a bunch of that stuff, as most horror is, was Doug Leffler, the director, saying, here's what I want to do to, in a lot of those scenes, he had a notion and said, here's how I want to play the scare.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and there's some classic horror things, which is you put your attention over here, bam, 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 bam,
Right.
pause, and then the thing's got to pop up over here.
That's what happened in the beginning. With the
Yeah.
what was it, hanging, and then it actually came up behind it. What was
Yeah.
It was probably a
teaser.
carcass hook.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
remember he heard something and he turns around and you think, and then the dog leaps out.
Yes,
There's
dog!
the dog!
Right, and when he's looking this way, you see soft focus.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was all Doug.
Yeah,
I mean,
and it sets the tone.
Yeah.
But you must describe what you
It
want.
was written in the script, Liz. Trust me.
Was it?
Yes, it was.
Well, there you
yes,
go.
it was.
All right, what do I have? Director Schmitter.
No, he realized our vision.
I'm scared.
It's like you count off 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 minutes. Okay, time for a scare. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, time for a
Right, that's
scare.
what's right.
That's the pacing of
No,
a scare.
I think the pace is just an internal thing. I
Yeah.
think you develop a sense of things need to pick up,
Right,
pick
right.
up. You keep
Keep
up
the
in
pace of
jeopardy.
this creature.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can't, it's, horror is about tension and anticipation, and you can't, after you do that, then you have to give the audience a period of release
A breather
to
there,
sort of,
yeah.
regenerate from it, and then, okay,
Then you remind them.
right, now we can bring
Being
you back.
traumatized by
Yeah.
a 6-foot
yeah.
spindly creature.
I like the fact the monster was attacking the house, and then the sun comes out and the monster goes away.
Well, sure, what would you do?
Okay.
You needed a way to get rid of them, and you resurrected.
But
The
you
horror
were
is-
tipped off to that with the light when Xena held up the torchy thing or whatever it was in there, and the monster goes like this. It's kind of, hey, so doesn't like light.
We
tell you-
earned that.
Yes, we did. It wasn't.
I'll tell you something else that I wonder if Doug caught. So Xena takes that lantern and shines it on the thing in the barn, and then she tosses the lantern in a barn full of hay. It should have burned down.
I don't remember that.
Yet another Xena inconsistency.
Someone caught it in the back.
Yeah, exactly.
Stunty, stunty.
You have to throw it into a puddle of water. I don't know how you missed that, Sharon.
Cow trough.
That's right.
Water trough.
Should have been.
Yeah.
Renee playing Hope, playing Gabrielle. We're going to watch a bit of a scene here, and to me, I could always spot in the still photos which character you were at the time. So let's take a little clip, a look at Renee
Still
playing
photos.
Hope, playing Gabrielle.
If you never got my messages, then how did you know I was alive? It's hard to describe. But I saw you. Not now, it's someplace in the future. The future. Don't tell me you've become an oracle. Not a very good one. I got a definite sense of danger
You look
around
like
you.
you hate her.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's just little trickles of it.
There is danger here.
Gabrielle,
What I remember
take a look at this.
that it's like Hope is a really bad actor. Like she's playing Gabrielle. I mean, meaning like she's trying to be very, very sweet
Right.
and really kind of kind, and what she thinks Gabrielle
Would be like.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? And then, but underneath it all is the real hate for Xena
Yeah.
because she tried to kill her. Really.
Right.
She's the one that set up the whole death.
Yeah.
And yeah, I remember, and just sort of the watchfulness. That's a good word of looking for how to respond in the situation. You know, how to be like a chameleon and relate to what she needed to do to survive the situation. So how would she be like Gabrielle, or would she be more like Hope, which is just like a witch, you know, to me?
Right. And what's your thought process? Like when you're playing that scene? No, because I'm totally, it's like, I don't know. I know what I like to do. I know when I write that. But, I mean,
My thought process is
Yeah.
something like that?
yeah.
It's weird. It's like almost being outside the body, more like watching Xena and really trying to figure out how to trick Xena.
Right.
As opposed to Gabrielle, you're just, hanging out with Lucy and you're just
Right.
playing, but, or just responding. But this was actually trying to watch Xena and figure her out. So that was sort of how I played it. It was more of a watchfulness and detachment.
Uh-huh.
And then, and just really kind of cutting off the love. There's no love. She isn't, and trying to look at it as someone who's trying to kill her and her
Right.
child now.
Yeah.
So really looking at it as this woman's the threat and I have to destroy this woman.
Right.
And that's how I was trying to do it. But yet layering it as Gabrielle, which
Yeah.
is why
Right.
the bad acting of, I'm going to be so sweet.
Right.
And then my high-pitched voice, I'm like,
Well, I thought the tip-off was the big kiss to Joxer. Right away, you couldn't be Gabrielle.
I was going to say, it was like,
yeah, good opportunity. Yeah, that in, right? No.
this
Yeah.
big laughing guy comes and gives you a great big hug, and I just see Hope
did.
going,
I
who
remember.
is that? Who's this big lumpy guy coming in and giving me a big hug?
Well, Hope had dealt with Joxer before, right?
Oh, had he?
Yeah.
She had to have because
Yes.
she did. She says, Joxer.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Give me that big kiss.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
And she kissed Aries before. I just,
Right.
I got
Yeah.
that kind of
Yeah.
tie-in, you know.
the subtexters were really big on that was the tip-off.
Are they?
Couldn't be Gabrielle.
Funny.
You put that in. Did you add the Joxa character?
With Elizabeth. No.
Joxer was always in it.
Yeah, he was always there.
Because it came from the notion that Gabrielle's parents would think Joxer was just the greatest guy.
And Willa, too, would have this
Just-
big...
Yeah.
Is Joxer the mighty?
Joxer.
That's hilarious. That's good.
And then he has sort of a Martha Stewart type sensibility that you don't really know.
Doing a cook.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was a little lost
Yeah.
as the film progressed,
Yeah.
but it was definitely meant to be in there.
You sent him off to count sheep and we never saw him again.
Yeah.
Poor Joxer.
You know what's funny? In the DVDs, Doug Loeffler talks about asking you to play Hope when she's Gabrielle, just as Gabrielle, and yet you added another layer on top of it.
Oh,
which
here,
is what
because
you
I
were
know we
just
needed to
saying.
trick the audience.
Right.
Well, there is sort of a moment there that is, to me, a little true Gabrielle.
Yeah.
A little bit. You know, I can hear
Very
my voice normal. But then, yeah, luckily. Went back to...
Yeah. Well, you know, it's really funny because I've seen that episode many times before, and I guess because I was sort of looking at bigger things, I've never specifically noticed, like, all of a sudden I looked at that and went, oh, God, you hate her. Like, and, you know, like not listening to the words and just looking at your eyes,
Yeah.
and I really got it.
Well, it's so interesting throughout the entire episode. I see now how much she just wants to play with Xena and just destroy
Yeah.
her because she's so tormented by her, and how her mother loves her more than
Yeah.
Xena more than her,
Right.
the
Right.
daughter, you know.
Yeah.
And so angry and so wow. I know I was watching it
Yeah.
today and going, she's really playing with her, really, really playing. And yeah, you're right, the hatred. Oh
Yeah.
my-
Yeah.
She's relishing the thought of Xena's
Yeah.
demise at the hand of her
It-
child.
and you can see it in the beginning, you're right.
Yeah.
But there's no threat. Xena isn't a threat.
No. And that's the thing is that, I mean, obviously it's within the cloak of a horror, you know, convention, but this is just a family melodrama. I mean, this is a, you know,
Yes.
you killed my, you know, my baby and I mean, and you
Yeah.
tried to kill me and now I'm surrounded by this family. And I mean, that's, without that emotional underpinning, it doesn't matter how good your fights are or, you know, how cool your monster is.
Right. That hate
Just
Funny.
pours out of your eyes. You're very good at malevolent eyes.
Well, there's I really
You
like.
are.
There's a nice stillness about it. You know, there's not a lot of. Yeah, there's just this real stillness.
Well, I think I was fortunate that this is the second time as Hope, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had a little more time to sort of sink into her and, you're right, not try so hard.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and you're
And
really...
that works for her, to be, you said, to be still and cold. Ugh. Yeah.
You know, Renee, I think we might as well come clean. You're a nasty, hateful person. This whole nice,
Now it can be told.
This whole
the
nice
truth.
Texan thing.
Oh, and I think of her as Carrie, like, not the tables which is levitating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Ugh.
totally.
Yeah. Yikes.
That sweet face hides so much. Xena meets Gabrielle's family. We're going to take a peek at Xena meeting Gabrielle's family. Not at all pleased. Daddy is just
What a nice young man. So
fit to be tied.
You know, when you bring your girlfriend home, that often happens. And she wears leather. She's not even one of those people.
And a sword.
Yeah, she's not a lipstick lesbian even.
How's she been?
Without you, just fine.
Where's his accent from? I know where it's from.
I meant after everything she's been through.
You should know. Seducing her away from home with your heroics. Filling her head with strange ideas. Where's she been? Changed forever because of you.
Oh. It's gonna hurt. Yeah, I hate that.
He struck an arrow into Xena's heart.
Yeah.
What is the problem? What is this problem?
That's not the life they had envisioned for their daughter.
Right.
You know, she was supposed to marry Perdiccas, was it?
Yeah,
Have a little
Perdiccas.
farm,
Right.
hang around
Count
the
the
village.
sheep.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And instead she runs off in the dead of night. I mean,
Yeah.
you basically just ran away from your family.
I guess she didn't write home either too much, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. For a bard, that's disturbing.
That's telling. You know, you never did have them visit the parents again, her parents. This was it, I
I
think.
think so.
Yeah, visited
first-
Lilla
wait,
once and
somebody-
Prodigal.
You wrote your first episode
The
was
Prodigal.
Yes,
Yeah.
but
No, my
parents
parents
never
weren't there.
appeared.
No.
It was
Really?
just- yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
This was the first and last time to meet the family.
Yeah.
Actually, it wasn't the original episode.
Yeah.
They were in that.
In which?
In the very first scene, and the parents were
Oh,
in that, weren't
in
they?
of the pilot.
Mhm.
Of the
Yeah,
pilot,
they were
yeah.
You
there.
knew, I don't know. We
Yeah.
switched Perdicuses too, so
Yes,
you know.
we did.
Switched fathers, too. I think he was taller and broader as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The
And
original
hairier.
dad?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
because I think he was in a scene, and I'm not sure he spoke in that
No.
first one. So, but no, I mean, I think this is really that scene to me is a great metaphor about your daughter goes off and comes back, and she's got these new relationships, and
Right.
they just can't, in their minds, their daughter's been ruined.
Mhm. Taken from the
Isn't that
bosom
great?
of her family.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It was a nice setup. It set the relationship like that.
right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and then you have this interesting dynamic of Xena's trying to protect these people who view her as nothing,
As the enemy,
But the
basically,
enemy.
yeah.
Something that crawled in the door with a leather jacket and they want out.
That's right. That's right.
Why? Instead of
I love that.
looking upon it as all the you could have come home with all these bubbling stories. Of course, the irony of it is the person that came home was Hope.
Right.
Right.
He was playing the perfect, you know what I mean? The
Yeah.
perfect child,
Mhm.
Right.
so to speak. So
Mm.
Yeah.
without Xena, right?
Right, that's
Yeah,
right.
What, is she- what happened? How weird. They were tipped off. Something was weird.
Yeah, how come Xena caught on and the parents didn't?
Well, because
I think they were so grateful to have her home. You know,
Yeah.
I really do. And being
Right.
such a good daughter, it was like,
Right.
Yeah, well, she was
wow,
like,
she survived this
couldn't be.
Yeah.
business with Xena and come home to us.
Plus, I think that
Doing the
Xena
chores
knows Gabrielle better than her parents do.
Mhm.
You know, I
Absolutely.
mean, I think that they had this idealized version, and because they thought their daughter would be happy going off and marrying Perdiccas.
Right.
Which even when you meet her in the pilot, you go, well, that's clearly not the case. So, I think there's a disconnect there.
Well, she would have been like Lilla,
Mhm.
Really,
Right.
that's what they expected.
Yes. Yeah.
She was
But
sweet.
it's because that's what they wanted
Right.
that allowed Hope the easiness to trick
Absolutely.
them. I mean, they
Yeah.
wanted
Yeah.
to believe that was their daughter.
Absolutely.
You know, the good
Right.
girl.
Right.
I
Right.
never thought of that. Right. Well, I never did. I'm sorry.
No, I was saying,
The whole point
you know what?
is,
And I mean, I think, yeah, that's it. I'm out of here.
My parents said goodbye to me. That was it.
Right if you get work.
That's cool.
Well, and I think that's part of the reason why Xena didn't get it right away. That's why we always talked about it, that it does take her
Mhm.
until, the fight with the monster in the
Yeah.
barn.
Yeah.
You know,
To
that-
know for sure.
To know for sure.
For sure. I think
Yeah.
even in that moment where she first sees her and there's this business across the distance, it's like, because it's a totally different moment when she sees the real Gabrielle.
Yes, it
And
is.
Lucy plays it like that. You can see
Mhm.
she's a little
Mhm.
thrown,
Yeah.
in this
Am I
first one.
hallucinating maybe? Because she'd been hallucinating Gabrielle visions of her. So maybe this was another one, yeah.
True.
Just
But the chemistry wasn't there.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
She doesn't react the same way, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you could say maybe Gabrielle was in shock. That's why she didn't come running to her. But you're right. There was no melting into each other, which is something they
Not
usually do
really.
because the
A little
connection
bit,
is
but
there.
Yeah.
it's different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of that barn fight,
Mhm.
right? Xena's fighting this monster in a barn, an anonymous monster in a barn, and then she comes in and tells Joxer that's Dayhawk's grandson. That means Gabriella's Hope. But the last she saw, Hope was down a lava pit. How could she possibly know Hope was back?
Who else could she be, though? She's not Gabrielle. Had to be Hope.
Yeah.
Right.
Process of elimination, I think they call that.
Way too simple. Boy, does that blow that question up. I never thought.
And Dayhawk, yeah, it had to be Dayhawk's child, right?
Right.
Had to be.
Right, because if that was Hope, then it's too coincidental that there happens to be this monster rampaging.
yeah.
And what she notices is that,
In the fight.
in the fight, there was an opportunity where the monster could have gotten
There were several
Gabrielle.
opportunities.
Yeah.
That's what she tells
Yes.
Joxer. It wasn't just once. The monster blew
Yeah.
past her a
Right.
couple of times.
And Gabrielle didn't intervene.
That's
Gabrielle
right.
didn't help her friend. She
Yeah.
just watches. which is so unusual.
Yeah.
And even before she knew how to help, she was always pitching in. She might have
Right,
gotten
right.
Oh, yeah.
swatted
Oh, yeah.
away, but
like
she
a
would have.
broom, right, or whatever, or rock, or
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. there
anything.
was-
She would have gone to
Yeah,
the aid of
absolutely.
Xena if
Yeah.
she were Gabrielle.
It was those spiny things. You weren't about to jump on the back of those spiny things.
she was on for the feet, you know. Something.
Kick him in the shin.
Exactly.
How tall was that guy when he was in the suit?
6-something, 6'5" maybe, and then the head was above that. So he was pretty tall.
Yeah.
You're right. It would have been the knees for you.
The toes.
Bite him in the knee.
A little higher.
So we've discussed, we've got to pace out the horror bits.
Right.
We have to pace out the Jeopardy bits. And it was only on rewatching that I noticed this little Jeopardy bit that I don't know, I kind of got a
It
chuckle
doesn't
out
look
of it.
safe.
That was going to Carrie moment.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah. Telekinetic moment.
I love that. I love that spin.
Go Xena!
Yeah.
I'll be father.
Damn you.
I know, you just want to go, curse you.
I'll leave you hanging. An extra moment.
Come on, unless you can't do it forever.
I think it goes to commercial.
I was going to say, well, they call it a cliffhanger for a reason.
You have to put those, you have to space those out. But
Yeah.
how do you pick? I made a note, is there a book of Jeopardy moments that you can go flip through? Okay, page, there's the one we want right there.
Ah, she's discovered our favorite secret.
That's it.
Yes.
They're going to have to kill you now.
Page number 233, the bridge Jeopardy. No, I think it's dictated by the locale.
Right, and what we could produce. But certainly we did the bridge falling, we did the off the cliff, we did what were some of the other classics?
I would love to have heard you in the session.
Oh yeah.
Would you do it like that? Well, we've done that and that. And
Oh, all the time. I mean, there'd be like,
yeah.
rock slide.
Done that so many times. Don't go to that well.
Episode 17 on Xena, where Hercules, we're working that right now. We can't,
Oh, right, of
yeah.
course.
Oh yeah.
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 And when you're outdoors, especially, you're kind of limited at
Right.
what you can do. Oh, a sinkhole,
Right. Did we ever
Right.
do quicksand?
Yes, please
yes.
do.
Oh, right, that's
Remember?
right.
Dies in quicksand, right? Or
Yeah,
dies.
yeah.
Right.
It's cool.
A cave collapse.
Lots of those.
Yeah,
Lots
gotta do a lot of those.
caves.
Okay.
Volcano, yeah, we did the lava pit, yep.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I don't think there was any Jeopardy left unturned.
No, I think we did it all.
Avalanche?
Yes.
Oh,
When
really?
you guys were in there in the frozen, areas had taken you to
Oh, my
the
God.
avalanche, closed off
That's
that cave.
hilarious.
Mhm. Yeah, I think we covered it all, I
No,
swear.
if there was some Jeopardy that we didn't do, I'd be really mad.
Yeah, we got
We're gonna
tsunami.
start filming again.
Yeah,
That's
we
right.
did, yeah.
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 I didn't, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, yep.
Yeah,
Hurricane?
No wind or rain, which is amazing for
there's
New
the,
Zealand.
going into the vortex. It wasn't a hurricane, though.
Okay. Yeah,
It was, we were
close
doing
enough.
the hurricane acting.
Yeah, yeah.
There were tornadoes.
There were tornadoes.
There were tornadoes. We
Yeah.
did tornadoes
Yes.
when they were
Tornadoes.
the baby. Yeah, yeah.
The tornado.
Yeah, tornadoes came after you all. It was when the three wise men came
I like
on.
this.
Eternal bonds, you're all,
Yeah, Eternal Bonds. That
She
was
was
it.
pregnant,
Oh,
and the
yes.
three wise men appear.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
you said,
That's right, there were
right.
tornadoes.
Yeah.
Special effects, you didn't see that. They weren't there at the time, the tornadoes.
Ah.
Brought those
I
in
think
later.
we basically covered every natural disaster known to man.
Right. Now we get our introduction to the Destroyer. Did you have any pet nicknames for him? Did you have any pet nicknames for?
Spike? I don't know.
Yeah. I think Porcupine of Death.
We'll take a look at him.
I love this scene.
I do too.
It's so romantic.
Did she hurt you? Let mother see.
Yes.
Now stop that.
Oh, did you see the lip, the little circle?
Yeah.
Stop it.
Oh, poor thing.
Mean
I
Hope, Mean
know.
Hope.
I know. Oh, I know.
I want to know how each of you sees the relationship between Hope and the Destroyer. Why don't we start with Chris?
You know, I don't think Hope loved the Destroyer. I think she loved what the Destroyer was going to do, but I think it was beyond Hope to love anything. If she loved anybody, it was her mother until she realized her mother wasn't returning the love.
That's true.
I just think it was beyond her to love at that point. She had a mission, and this creature was going to go through that mission, but she didn't love. It's sad to me.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
this was a face only a mother could love, but not Hope.
Right.
Hope didn't have it in her to love. That's my
I
opinion.
think you're right. I think that she loved Gabrielle the most. But I think she loved it, but not in the same way. You know, but
Yeah.
you're right. Maybe that's how you described it well, what he could do. But the way I played it is, of course, she loved him, but not in the same way. Yeah. It
She
was
loved
for
what he could do.
Gabrielle.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And the
Right.
love she had for her mother had turned to hate.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was still that yearning, you're wanting to love, which I think is sort of there, but it was never going to happen, which is then why she's projecting it all to Xena, you know?
Right, right. And the reason we designed, the creature the way we did is that I was always struck by the great irony of, a child who couldn't be embraced, who literally physically, without hurting his
Yeah.
mom.
Very Edward Scissorhands.
Right,
you know?
right,
Mhm.
which then sort of sets up, what happens at the very end. And that just, sort of struck is such a tragic chord, because the Destroyer's not a bad
No, he wants exactly what Hope wanted from
Exactly.
Gabrielle, a mother's love.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you're right. And she just saw him as a vessel. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
A way to
and you
further
see
the-
that too in the end. He she basically tells him what he has to do.
Right,
You know.
yeah.
And he's like.
That seemed like such a typical mother moment when he tried to hug and you go, and I forget the line she made, but something, no,
Right.
get away or get back, or
She
she
would
just
stop it. I think.
Yeah.
stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just heard it, but
Yeah,
I remember
stop.
Doug saying that the whole scene was going to be about the baby reaching out for the mother,
Right.
but she, he didn't really say that she just doesn't want to be touched by him, but that she can't,
It's dangerous.
Yeah.
He's full of these spines. When you were, holding the face in the hand or the money, could you feel anything could it make you feel anything? It does in
There's
hindsight.
something like ET-ish about it,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's sort of
those large
endearing.
eyes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But and it was the only area I could touch, which is probably why I kept holding the face.
Right.
But still, I mean, it's really weird. It does look a little more romantic, like you said. There's something else going on. Which
Yeah.
is interesting.
She's
trying
a-
to think. It's like it's very Oedipus, isn't it, or something?
I was going to say, she's
Yeah.
a weird lady.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think she was pulling every string to keep that monster on track with her agenda. No,
Yeah.
seriously,
Yeah,
I totally
yeah,
do.
Yeah.
And it just occurred to me, the birth of Hope, born in a day, all of a sudden, age 3, age 12, she doesn't have any family relationship to relate to. She doesn't know how to be a mother.
Right.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
He's getting sadder by the minute. And wasn't that actor fantastic inside that?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, the sounds afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
All
great.
credit
that
to
really
those
made it come
Post
alive.
guys with that sound that was
Yeah.
not quite human, and yet
Uh-huh.
you understood exactly what that
True.
monster was saying.
Right.
Yeah. We're going on to the scene where Xena, Gabrielle, and Jocks are all in the forest running around after each other.
Ah, yes.
Where did that scene come from?
That, all I wanted to do was rip off Silence of the Lambs, which is like one of my favorite films ever. And I've always been fascinated by the filmmaking in the sequence where you're with the FBI going on the raid, and they're outside of a house and ringing the doorbell, and you hear the doorbell ringing, and your serial killer, in Buffalo Bill's lair, and so you assume I thought it was a great example of how the language of film tells you to put those two, that exterior with the interior.
Right.
And then he opens the door and you discover
It was
it's
Different
yeah,
house.
Yeah, different
Yeah.
house, and it's Jodie Foster. So then I thought, okay, we have Gabrielle's walking through the forest, Hope's walking through the forest, how do we use the fact that those two things will look the same
Right.
to, make us connect two scenes that aren't connected. So.
Fun.
And sadly, basically every show I'm on, I try to find a way to rip off that scene.
Not to look for it.
Yeah, seriously, I did it on Hack. I did it on Lois. Like, get that in here. It was hard on the OC, but
So we're going to see a piece of the end of that scene. You weren't in the first 2 episodes of season 4, and they actually took your name off the credits.
Mm-hmm. They were, it was part of the trick.
The fiendish plan.
Yeah.
And now they had to ask you permission to do that?
I don't remember, but I guess they did.
I think so.
I think they
yeah.
would have to have.
Yeah.
But you still got paid.
Well, yeah, you did.
Now she's gonna go home, go through those pay stubs. Hey,
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
People have actually wondered about that.
Really?
Yeah.
And I was there. Yeah, I must have. I
Yeah.
know I did.
Yeah.
Well, they were all talking. Yeah.
They wonder if an actor who is a regular on a show and doesn't appear,
You get paid
if
anyway.
they get
It's the
paid.
contract,
yeah.
right?
Yes.
So many episodes
Yeah.
a year.
Yeah.
Lucy was talking. So Lucy was filming Adventures in the Sin Trade. So this was, I guess, almost a 3-week shoot for that, even though it was 2 episodes. I think it was over, probably 2, 7 and 7 or 9 and 9. And she's always talking about being lonely and just, horrible loss not having you there. Even though you were walking around with T.J. Scott.
Only in the first episode. Well, whenever he was, it wasn't like that actually. It was set up where he shot in Auckland and then they went to the mountains.
Taupo, right?
Yeah, and when he was there, I was there. But I still wasn't in the scene with her. I was on the outskirts watching, so it's different.
And you were probably wearing a lot of clothes and she
Oh,
was
yeah.
in her. Right. So you finally get together in the forest and...
But the thing is we've been working together. That's not the first scene of this episode, in the forest.
Right. Right. I
But
don't know
Lucy
what
didn't
order.
miss me in that. Do you know what I mean? She wasn't still missing me. We'd been working together.
Oh, so all these... let's see. Let's take a look at let's take a look at the scene.
Totally dismantles that question.
Within our clip.
Oh, man.
I don't remember much. I remember falling. Oh, I remember the fire and the rocks. I remember how
Lucy's so sweet.
screaming when she died. I just blacked out then, and I woke up in this hospice. Apparently I'd been there for a long time, and I sent word to you. I don't know how to tell you this.
Just drop the bombs, Xena.
Yeah, things are really bad.
I'm so alive.
Yeah.
That was just so raw. And in the I've seen the dailies of that. You guys were like bawling your eyes out, the two of you. What? Do you remember filming this? And
I do, yeah. It's one of those few moments where there were a few of them though.
Yeah.
Where, I was like just going for it. I don't know. Kind of hoping that somebody would pull me back a little bit. But and I think if Lucy or I go to something like that, you can't help but sort of be pulled in,
that's interesting. Why would you hope they'd pull you back? You guys thought each other. She thought she was dead. You thought you were dead.
I, looking back now, wish that somebody had pulled me back.
Really?
At the same time, I didn't
But
think
at the
about
same
it.
time, the contrast between the Hope
Yeah.
and
Right.
Xena meet
Yeah,
and the Gabrielle and
that's-
Xena was
yeah.
I know, I
was
wanted like
huge
an
because of that.
abandonment of control, because to me, Hope is very controlled. And
Right,
reaction.
exactly. Very
Yeah.
measured.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
Gabrielle just wasn't, she was loose, which is why then it probably
Right.
went,
When we were, it's interesting
other
because when we
side.
were building this story, one of the big issues was, okay, we have essentially 2 reunion scenes,
Right.
and the first one has to be convincing, but then the second one has to give you something,
It has to
Different.
top that.
It has to top
and
that.
has to be an emotional.
and
of course.
2 versions of what happened in that.
Don't go there, Miss.
LP.
Stop. Someone stop her.
And,
and that really was I remember that was the writing, and I remember trying to figure out, what is she trying to say in between? You know what I mean?
Right.
Because she has to know what happened to her.
Yeah.
And then the only way to really do that, because not much is coming out, is that she's still stunned.
Yeah.
And to be stunned, you're still you're emotionally overwhelmed. And
Right.
that's probably why it all went that way.
When I sort of
Yeah.
take it as it plays really well for me that what happened to her is so horrible, she really can't
Yeah.
talk about it.
Not now.
Yeah, which
Not
is,
ever.
it's one, I mean, that's,
To this day, I will not say what happened to Gabrielle.
Well, that's
That's a
when
good
you're-
thing, Renee.
As a-
Not that we don't know. We all know.
that's what we all know. We know exactly what happened. No, I mean, as a writer, you just, good actors can save you from anything because there's nothing that we could write that would be, I mean, what could you write that would be an interesting explanation of what it's like to be crushed in the lava pit? But, it's you just, think,
That's
okay,
funny.
Renee, handle it.
That's funny, and I think that the writing, to me now it's so important to have, you gotta have the writing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I've tried to do other things where I didn't have a script. It's
Tricky, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is bare bones, and I remember Lucy, when she looked at that, she said, she just jumps into it. So, there weren't a whole lot of lines for her.
Right.
You were giving more of the description. And as she says, they were talking about the hair clip beforehand, and then she turns in. But when the two of you got together, it just all came. It just all. She was amazed at the impact that it had on her looking at it now. The difference from when doing it at the
Oh,
time.
really?
Yeah. Kissing the hand.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
Very
it's
sweet.
really
yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Very touching.
Really
You can see
nice.
the love between them. So
yeah,
different from
exactly.
Jack
There
and
was
Xena.
all this emotion.
Yeah.
It was
Right.
really, really nice.
Yeah.
Carried it.
We're taking a look at Hope here. We haven't seen much of her, but here's a glimpse of her and Gabrielle together.
What is it now?
This was harder.
4 generations? Your parents, there's you, me, my pride, my joy. Your grandson, Mother, the destroyer. Why aren't you dead? Well, it's certainly not for your lack of trying, is it? The truth is, I could say the same thing about you, if I cared. Which I don't.
So,
Well sidestepped. Why aren't you dead?
Actually, it's always funny because I remember wanting her to still want to be the daughter with her mother.
Yeah.
No, and that's really nice. It's
Yeah.
a nice
Like,
activity
Kinda
Yeah.
wanted
to convey
but
that.
she's playing with her.
Yeah.
Like she had to have the control in the scene, It was like,
Right.
she
which
still
is what
wants.
you gave her. You gave her the control.
Yeah.
Obviously. Yeah.
She still wants Gabrielle for a mother. Is she jealous that Gabrielle loves?
Yeah. When Gabrielle says, "Why aren't you dead?" The only way to play it was, very still it hurt.
Yeah.
It was probably the only time in the episode that she's actually affected by something.
You started to say that was difficult to shoot.
Well, it was difficult because with Gabrielle, Hope was easier because I know I had the bed, I had the doll, and the doll really helped me get. She wants to be the daughter, again, still trying, but angry. And then Gabrielle would have just taken off or something. I felt so confined. So the only way to play that, I thought, was to just feel like she was frozen.
Yeah.
And didn't know what to do, and was surprised, and that's
And she-
harder.
and
Because
she's-
Gabrielle would have taken off.
Although
Something.
you did have your family in the other room, and
That's true.
That
Right.
grounds you
That's true.
too. You want to stay there because
true.
she could turn around and just
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember
just-
that, yeah.
Right, that's
That's right. That's right, you're right, I remember that.
And you're gone. There's a powerful lady here. Hope and the Destroyer had to bite the dust.
Yes, they did. We contemplated a spin-off. Hope and the Destroyer. It was a variety show.
On the road.
Oh, she sings, he dances.
Right.
but not too close
walks
anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
He's walking cross country.
Yeah.
How did you, do you remember any of the discussion about, I mean, there's a million ways to off somebody, a monster, what have you, and I want you to talk a little bit about before it, and then we'll take a look at the scene of how it played out.
Trying to figure out how to kill the monster.
Right, how did you?
Well, it always, because there was the issue of, okay, he loves his mother, who happens to look just like Gabrielle, who he hates, that we always knew there had to be an element of
Right.
identity confusion.
Switch, yeah.
And then once we had the idea of, that the destroyer has these spikes and can never, hug his mother, there was something just so just called out for their sort of
Tragic,
last
yeah.
tragic, death kind of, that he finally gets to be able to do what he wants, but in doing so he kills his mother, and it's bad for
The
everyone.
final embrace.
Yeah.
And I think it helped that, again, Xena wasn't supposed to be able to kill Hope, so to maneuver the destroyer into
Right.
killing Hope
Yeah.
relieves that curse, the fates, cutting all of that.
Very clever, that Xena.
She is.
Not with us.
Xena thought of everything.
Okay.
She's just,
Great.
she's just sitting around concocting these ideas on how to get out of the...
Brilliant.
Yeah.
She's just
I didn't,
brilliant.
yeah.
So let's take a look at it, how it played out.
I'm going to cry.
Right. So at that moment, the destroyer thinks he's stabbing Gabrielle.
Right.
Looks back and realizes, oh, wait a minute.
Oh, that's so sad.
It's heartrending.
It is.
Did you have any idea that a big guy in a rubber suit and Renee could just turn that into something so...
Well, that was that was the thing of the
Fingers
okay,
crossed.
this is what we're trying for. Can we pull it off? This could go so wrong. It could be completely cheesy. It could be, but
But
it played.
And Doug was always watching the character of the creature,
Yeah.
making sure that his personality was coming through, and you could see the coverage. I mean, it's all his reactions to everything.
Right.
So that's
Yeah,
good.
that was really
it's
nice. Nice work from the director.
Yeah, and credit to the K&B did a great job of giving us
Oh,
a feature
yeah.
with a creature with that much facial expression.
That's true.
Because if you don't have that, then that doesn't work.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
and kudos to the sound people. Again,
That's
they
right.
made,
Yeah.
made you understand what was in his home.
Yeah.
The scene actually goes on for quite some time. And then, so was he making any noises in there? I mean,
No.
You're
He's probably
just...
just dying,
I'm hot. I'm really, really hot.
No, he
When
was really
it's
sweet.
younger.
He didn't complain at all. But
Was he a
it was
local?
awkward.
Was
No,
he-
I think he was brought in.
Was he brought in?
Yeah.
He was great.
Yeah.
great.
He was American. That's right.
You have Gabrielle killing her daughter for the second time. So, even though Hope's the devil's spawn,
Right.
what on earth is this doing to Gabrielle?
Well, I think you see at the end.
Yeah.
That's when you understand that she's really lost. She's come back to life. All of this tragedy has unfolded, partially, or a large part of it, due to her. This is a person who's gotta take some time to deal, and to find her way.
Yeah, and that's when she chooses the way of peace
Mhm.
eventually, right?
Mhm.
Trying to figure out what that is.
Yeah. I mean, as monstrous as her family was,
Yeah.
they were still her family,
Right.
I do think there's an element there of Gabrielle that this is the only way it could be.
Yes.
That there was no other choice, and something
Mhm.
about that. The end of this episode was her acceptance of, it's over. That is truly over. But you're right. That loss and grief is still there.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a look at it.
Do you get the feeling that sometimes nothing is really over? It just keeps coming back around, but it's wearing a different face. It's the same underneath. Do you know what I mean?
Sure. I was trapped in a cycle of violence and hatred. And no matter how I tried to break free, something always pulled me back. Until you. know it's true. You talk about trying to find your way, but to me, you are my way.
How
Great
can I be
line.
your way when I'm lost myself?
I'm searching for answers too.
Let's go to India.
Yeah.
Well, only one way to solve this road trip.
You're right. Let's talk for a while. I'll go on the horse, you walk.
And I was puzzled. Xena actually looked quite shy. Where was Xena for you guys at this point? And
No, I think it was the emotion. I don't
Yeah.
think that character ever found it easy to express emotion, especially this
You
early
are
in the
my
series.
way.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard for her to admit that she relies on anyone, even though, she does.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Yeah.
there was only one question that came out of this episode. Was there any talk at the time about explaining how Gabrielle got out of the lava pit?
God damn it,
Are
Sharon.
you gonna kill her?
I think I will. I can't stand
I finally asked one question too many.
My agent promised me that wouldn't be asked. Promise me!
Well, I want to thank you girls for coming. I'm glad I lived through this first session.
your neck.
And, maybe we can do it again.
I'm game.
All right,
Okay.
yeah.
After you see the chiropractor, though, right?
Yeah. I'll just have a little neck adjustment. But, so what'd you think? Did you enjoy this?
Yeah,
Did you have a good time with us? And, it's fun.
Chatty Cathy's.
that's right.
It's fun to hear the different sides of it all.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, because I mean, it is amazing. It's like, we worked on this thing for so long, and Chris and I were together, but it's like you were on the other side of the world.
I have a question for you. When mother and child were dying, you didn't cry. Was that a choice for Gabrielle, that she wasn't moved to tears?
Yes. Yeah, I think that's where she knew it just had to be this way. I don't know how else to say it in eloquent words.
Right,
but
yeah.
But basically, it was just about resolution.
Yeah. So no tears to
No.
shed, just
And I remember,
resignation.
to me, there's something I remember about maybe still sort of stunned,
Mhm,
and yeah, I think the shock of it all still, like you said, it's sort of residual, and then she does feel lost.
Right.
And she
Yeah,
verbalizes
and leads
it at the
right
end.
into it. Yeah.
But there wasn't that initial shock of when she had to poison Hope the first time.
Yeah.
Where it was just killed her. There wasn't that at this time, because she knew Hope had to die, and this
Yeah.
beast had to die.
Yeah, and I mean, the Destroyer, there's no rehab program.
For the spawn of the devil.
Destroyer.
Right, yeah.
Dragging
Sweet-
by his feet and kill the soil,
Oh, wow, I hadn't thought of that.
Very useful.
What a use for your grandson. Use him as a tiller.
Right?
That's all I can think of.
Thank you so much. Well, I think it turned out well.
Yeah.
Nice little groups of these people, and I know Liz wants to get on Rob's case.
Absolutely.
She keeps emailing, and I'm going to get to go one with Rob, right? And I'm going to get to do one with Rob,
You know what
right?
I'd love to do is the one Helicon and back. Because I know I just destroyed your script. I know. I would love it.
Really? Can we talk?
Yeah.
I would love to
I'd
talk about that.
I
That's
would.
your Foster Patton speech. It kills me to this
I
day.
know. Yeah, let's do, because I'd
Okay.
love to go back and look at why